I think it is safe to say that we all suffer from some kind of vice, some worse than others. Some people compulsively bite their nails or pick at their skin when they're nervous, or because they've turned the action into an autonomous movement. And there are people who consume things as a means of self-medication or because they have nothing better to do, such as people who are addicted to entertainment, adult media, alcohol, etc., etc. Today's topic, who I'm sure you're most likely familiar with at this point, is afflicted by a crippling addiction to alcohol. KingCobraJFS, the sexy goth bad boy from Casper, Wyoming, has pushed through a lengthy battle with alcoholism. He's been drinking for a large chunk of his life, and being that he's now in his 30s, he's chosen to stick to his guns and waste away any potential he had as efficiently as possible. Out of all of its bad habits, his drinking has to be the worst one, followed closely by his affinity for smoking cigarettes and weed, but we'll probably touch on that more in the future. While yes, he smokes quite frequently, and that is an undeniably nasty habit to have, he also puts forth an effort to drink every day, if not every other day, making an optional luxury into a shoehorn necessity. This comes and goes based on how much money he's currently got in the bank. This, of course, is financed through his sale of shoddily built wands, and people who are stupid enough to send in money during his innumerable drinking streams. Most of his streams feature him under the influence of some liquid joy. Him being drunk on camera is obviously not an uncommon sight. However, his blackout streams are easily the most noteworthy due to their entertainment value. He has had plenty of explosive meltdowns in front of the camera with plenty of people watching in awe. One notable event was the one that led him to breaking a cigarette and stomping his hat. It's easily one of my favorite videos he's ever made. He rarely shows any actual remorse for this type of behavior. In recent years, he's tried to act a touch more self-aware, attempting to use his own failures as an aid to his self-deprecating humor. But ultimately, he never learns. He just keeps up the behavior because it's all he knows. Drinking booze has done very significant damage to the Dark Lord. Unsurprisingly, downing one beer after another has caused him to bloat. His physical appearance has drastically degraded over the last 10 years or so, with the alcohol holding him down and making him lazier than he was before. His face is the most bloated part of his body. It looks as though his glasses are squeezing his head, giving it an almost peanut-like shape. At some points, it appears that his lips are dangling just off of his face, hanging far lower than they used to, but that is likely because he was just blackout drunk. You tend to look pretty fucked up if you've been drinking for hours. He slurs his speech worse than he did prior, even if he's not all liquored up. He's always had a noticeable speech impediment, but his drinking has obviously affected his ability to talk, alongside aiding in the destruction of his teeth. But I already made an entire video breaking down the corrosion of his chompers. He is definitely a lot slower than he used to be. If he was in his 50s, it'd be acceptable for him to be slowing down a bit. But he's just in his early 30s. These are problems he shouldn't be facing for quite some time. The booze literally aged him in every way, but he never got any wiser. Go figure, right? Maybe that's a stupid thing to expect from booze, but I digress. On top of being slower than he was before, he's gotten much more boring. He'll often only make videos or streams when he needs the money, cutting streams short once he's acquired the adequate amount of paper to satiate his alcohol addiction. When pressed on this, he claims he's cutting back on his drinking and that he's a responsible adult. But tell me, do you really think he's responsible? Is he keeping true to his promise of cutting back? I gotta be honest with you, I really don't believe it. Hell, most of his streams are just him begging for money, a bog doing some begging. What a treat. Moving along, his favorite fun liquid appears to be Bud Light. As to why, nobody is really quite sure. He has continued to drink the beer despite the negative attention the brand has been enduring recently. Cobes, of course, has plenty of opinions on who Anheuser-Busch used as their spokesperson. But needless to say, he just wants to give free advertisement to the company. Not a sponsor. He mixes Bud Light with most of the quote food he makes. Calling it food is honestly pretty generous. Making a burrito? Just pour beer on top of it and stick it in the oven. Cooking a steak? Toss some beer in there for good measure. And drinking a beer? Couple that with even more beer. The sauce has negatively impacted the quality of his food in just decision making alone. He actually chooses to make disgusting food combinations to eat in front of the camera, not just because he needs the money. YouTube is the closest thing he has to a job, but he really just enjoys shoving disgusting slop into his mouth, and I refuse to believe that he does this shit when he's sober. But then again, he is pretty dumb. I mean, how hard of an alcoholic do you have to be to come up with ignorant shit like Mountain Dew hard-boiled eggs? Surprisingly, booze has also brought Cobes closer to some of the people around him, or at least it used to. He did a livestream with his hetero homeboy Darflin B where the duo drank a case of beer together. Shockingly, not too much silly shit actually happened during this, and Cobra actually managed to have a semi-normal time with somebody for once. Seeing him interact positively with another human who was also being kind is sort of endearing. Darf can be seen hyping up Josh and being a supportive friend. Out of everything that alcohol did or didn't do for Cobes, at least he was able to bond over a few drinks with a bud. From what I understand, Darf has had a rough time the last couple of years and he could probably use a good friend. Cobes and Darf were reunited in a shittily thrown together documentary by your favorite son, so if you want to go endure that, be my guest. Can't be any worse than watching a Ransona video, right? Actually, don't answer that. However, moving along, Cobes has a tendency to up the ante when it comes to his drinking prowess. When you spend a lot of time doing something, you usually get pretty good at it. You sometimes catch yourself developing new techniques for the said thing and even find new ways to profit from it. Never underestimate a determined person. Cobes appears to have partially taken to this mindset, one you would typically associate with a discernible skill, and applied it to his drinking with questionable amounts of success. He will down as much booze as he physically can stomach in order to satiate his need for alcohol. He's unfortunately one of those drunks that just has to be obliterated to have a good time. How he actually manages to have a good time while fading in and out of reality while vomiting is truly beyond me. Doesn't sound like it'd be enjoyable, but hey, different strokes for different folks. Adding on top of it, he mixes his drinks, which of course can be fun if done in moderation and flavor is accounted for, but he goes to extremes. I don't know about you, but in my experience, I've gathered that mixing clear and dark funny juices will usually either ruin or enhance the night. Either way, it's going to be an intense one. He does this whenever he can, mixing whatever liquor he's got to make a tart poison that'll undoubtedly leave permanent damage to his liver. But unfortunately, he doesn't just stop at liquor. He mixes it with soda and juice, which of course is incredibly common. Who doesn't love a good Jack and Coke? What sets him apart is his portions, along with what drinks he uses. One of his favorites is a mixture of Mountain Dew and beer, specifically Blue Moon. It's a half and half ratio he calls Cobra's Mist. Another classic is Cobra's Blood, which is half Monster Energy and half Apothic dark red wine. And who could forget Cobra's Colada, 1/4 Malibu coconut rum, 1/4 Malibu mango rum, 1/4 Mountain Dew white label, and 1/4 Mountain Dew Baja Blast. If you could stomach these foul beverages at the same amount that he does, I'd honestly be impressed. Now I'm going to assume you're a mature, of-age adult who can handle a few drinks and maybe you're saying to yourself, hey, these don't sound totally awful yet, what gives? And listen, I hear ya, I really do. So let's sit down and take a look at one of his recent drinks, shall we?
Sexual bad boy KingCobraJFS back at it with another video. It is Friday Tubes, and my fans sent me some jumbo squid in hot sauce. I love canned fish. One of my other fans sent me a mustard flavored soda pop. It's got an ocean and an anchor on the can, so I thought, and it matches the color of the mustard. It's yellow can, yellow soda. Why not? We're going to add some Champion League sports drink, the lime cucumber flavor. I'm going to dump all that canned fish in there. Trying the squid out just to see how spicy that sauce is. And with the mustard soda pop. A little bit of that action. Pour a little bit of that mustard soda on top. Okay, let's get it. Splash it out. There it is. I got it in the glass, YouTube. The Cobra Brewing Company glass. Straight out of Texas, I do believe. Not a sponsor. Look at that gnarly fucking drink. All the squid bits at the end there. Oof. All that's left are the little chunks of meat at the bottom of the glass, YouTube.
Now, if you don't think that was too bad, I get ya, and trust me, it does get worse. The worst one, in my opinion, has to be the drink combo he made for Valentine's Day 2023. He mixed a shitload of alcohol together, including a creamy liquor, creating a curdled mess. He topped it off by stirring the drink with a beef stick, and don't worry, he finished all of it, and it was tasty, tubes. If nothing else, this video perfectly illustrates Cobes' ability to turn off his gag reflex. Ooh, I take that back. His drinking, while a terribly bad thing for him, has been quite the show for onlookers. Turns out, while he is definitely a compulsive liar whose ass is definitely jealous of all of the shit that falls out of his mouth, he does also have moments of insecurity or weakness when he's got alcohol in his gut. Sometimes, more often than he'd like to admit, he'll put his foot and its rash in his mouth, admitting some terrible truths. For example, one time he drunkenly admitted to feeling up a handicapped girl when they were both younger and hanging out in the woods. Pretty scary shit to listen to. Let's have a little peek, shall we?
I got to feel what boobies feel like when I was in junior high. And it was with a nice, lovely girl. It was totally consensual. We were both special needs. We were hanging out with a friend of mine. We were hanging out in the forest. It was a hot summer's afternoon before the school year. And all I did was ask, literally, the chick that I was talking with, hey, can you show me your boobs, please? And she lifted up her shirt, and it was just like, you never forget your first pair of boobs, dude. I gave him a fucking squeeze consensually, and I went in to kiss her, and she backed off a little bit, you know? So I'm like, okay, hold up, let me reinvent this shit. I whipped out my dick and started whacking one off and busted her nuts. And she was into it too, dude. She was just like, hey, make that white stuff come out again. I mean, to be fair, when you're a horny preteen and you're experimenting with other horny preteens, just doing kid shit, you know, it's perfectly innocent. But at the same time, you gotta teach kids about condoms and safe sex. Otherwise, we're going to continue to have fucking retards in our society. Yeah. And I regret calling her retarded when I talked about it, but she was special needs. Then again, so am I. She wasn't so special needs, though, that she couldn't function, you know. She was special needs enough to where people noticed, but like, she wasn't so retarded that she drooled on herself, you know. So like, hey, you know, you take what you can get. You get rejected by every chick you've liked since the 4th fucking grade. And then you're hanging out with one of your guy buddies, and he happens to know a chick. And she's totally consenting to show off her titties. You know, you never forget your first pair of boobs.
How heartwarming. A grown man reminisces about sexual assault from his youth. Not much to say other than he revealed his true colors by telling that story. At least his addiction to liquor has made him open up about his neglectful behavior once again. I guess it is important that the world knows what he's doing. And before we wrap this video up, I would like to talk about something that's more of an update to my Cobes and Animals video. Recently, he admitted to giving his bearded dragon, Puff, some marijuana. Cobes is a mature adult, and he's able to handle his weed. That being said, he does enjoy toking with some company. Cobes will take a hit of marijuana and blow the smoke into his lizard's tank. He alleges that Puff actually likes it, closing his eyes when the smoke hits him. He isn't closing his eyes because he enjoys the smoke, you fucking dimwit. He's closing his eyes because you're blowing an irritant into them. Furthermore, bearded dragons have smaller lungs than people and they physically cannot cough. So when you force them to breathe in smoke, they have to sit there and endure the pain. And even more so, how does he actually know that Puff is getting high? All the bearded dragons do is move around a tiny bit, eat, and sit. That is it. They do nothing else. There is no way to actually verify that he's getting stoned. That being said, I don't think he's going to have Puff for much longer. To really hammer it in, let's watch his confession regarding this.
Puff doesn't have a favorite strain that I know of. I don't get him stoned all the time, but every once in a while he likes a good fat hit, you know what I'm saying? Believe me, when Puff doesn't want anything, he'll let you know with his body language. If I'm smoking marijuana, Puff will kind of look up like, hey man, give me a hit of that. So I'll take a fucking huge ass fucking hit of weed and I'll blow it into his tank. 1 or 2 hits, he's good. He doesn't need a whole lot, you know. And I've seen him do it. When I give him a hit of weed, he'll lift his head up and he'll close his eyes and be like, I know what that is. I don't do it all the time because Puff really doesn't need it to chill out. Like, bearded dragons are normally pretty chilled out to begin with. But every once in a while is a rare treat, you know. It's like, and if Puff didn't like it, he'd let me know, you know. I'm more connected with Puff emotionally than any of you miserable, sad losers out there.
I really don't know how to end this. There isn't any positive outcome at the end of Josh's story. I usually like to end videos on some kind of semi-uplifting note, which can be tricky given my usual subject matter. But if nothing else, I think that we can all take solace in that we aren't living like him. Cobes is one of the internet's many examples as to how to not live your life. Take his story, learn from his mistakes, and take care of yourself. As for Josh, he'll be fine. He always seems to scrape by with the bare minimum, until eventually he won't. Rest assured, we'll all be there to see it, and Clint will be there to pick up the pieces. And with that being said, that's going to be it for today's video. If you like what I do, leave a comment, rate, and subscribe. If you want to support me in a more personal way, you can check out the Patreon link and the Teespring link in the description. I've got more content coming down the pipeline. But until then, I'll see you degenerates next time.